Thank you for coming. What I'd like to do is I want to step out of the way for a second and let these folks introduce themselves. I'm going to make a few comments, and then this whole group will be eligible to answer questions so that you don't have to be here a long time. Just we've got some concerns about some of the trends that we're seeing with Mr. Arpaio and his administration. So I want to lay those out, and then this whole group will be open for answer or questions at the end. So let me step out of the way, and we'll start right here with Don and Neil.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Donna Neal, and I'm the director of a group called NAILM, Neighborhood Activists Interlinked Empowerment Movement. We're about 45,000 strong. We work off the internet, and we're real involved in trying to get the best of the best in office so we can have a safe, clean, quiet community.
And our husband, Jerry, the co-founder. Mike.
Good afternoon. Michael Duran. I'm with the Arizona Correctional Peace Officer Association. I'm the Executive Vice President, and we're here to support Dan.
Woohoo!
I'm John Steer. I'm the Vice President of the Arizona Conference of Police and Sheriffs, and we're very proud. We've supported Dan both in this election and the past, so we're excited about what Dan's going to offer to the citizens here in Maricopa County.
Greatness.
Hi, I'm Lou Ebret. I'm the president of the Arizona Probation Officers Association. We're about 1,000 strong in Maricopa County, and I'd echo all the sentiments expressed so far about Dan. We're 100% behind him and believe he's the best man for the job.
Good afternoon. My name is Fred Taylor. I'm Chairman Emeritus of the Arizona African American Republican Committee. I worked with Dan for 7.5 years when I was in the governor's office. I was the liaison to get him the state gang task force, and I can certify that this is a professional that this county needs. He's worked to keep the streets of Arizona safe for the last 30 years, and this is who you need as the next sheriff of Maricopa County.
Woohoo!
My name is Joe Gordon. I'm a recently retired federal agent and a career law enforcement officer of over 30 years. I currently manage and run my own agency that's private investigators and security consultants here in the Valley.
Thank you, Joe. First, I'd like to publicly acknowledge how honored and humbled I am by the endorsement of Terry Goddard yesterday. Terry and I share many of the same. Yes, right here. Terry and I clearly share the same professional desire to have effective and efficient law enforcement scattered throughout this Maricopa County, and I'm very grateful for that endorsement. It means a lot to me. We're here today to talk about some very disturbing trends that we're seeing from Joe Arpaio and his administration these past few weeks. Most recently, yesterday, they swarmed in Mesa City Hall and Library with a 30-member SWAT team to round up 16 janitors. We're also concerned that we've seen press reports lately that show top-level Arpaio employees are behind the wave of dirty and false advertising ads with money that, as of now, still cannot be legally accounted for. We are concerned about Arpaio's denial and deflection of the responsibility for the recent airing of the 20-minute video of the murder of Robert Cotton in his jail. In Mesa yesterday, in my personal opinion, this raid was a political hit, not an immigration enforcement. Several weeks ago, Joe Arpaio raided a contract landscape firm at the place of their business in Mesa, not at their city of Chandler job sites. But this time, he wanted to make sure that there was a statement made to his critics in the city of Mesa, particularly the police department, by going after the contractor inside city buildings, specifically the city hall. Instead of raiding the officers of the employer of these workers, Joe Arpaio raids the customer of the employer. This sends a chilling message to any business that on a whim, Joe Arpaio can and will come and break down your door if need be to prove a point. The raid on Mesa City Hall is further proof that Joe Arpaio's real intention is not law enforcement. It's political retribution against anyone or any city that dares to oppose him or criticize him. He does it over and over again without any fear of accountability and will not stop until the voters stop him. It is also apparent that this raid serves another purpose, and that is to divert attention away from the brutal murder story that's been taking place this week of Robert Cotton. For whatever reasons, detention officers failed, unfortunately, to see what was happening on the videos, even though they were right in front of them. There have been over 60 inmate deaths, as documented in the East Valley Tribune, in the last 3 years due to lack of health care. Something's terribly wrong in this jail system. In fact, in this most recent murder case, Arpaio excused this jailhouse murder as nothing out of the ordinary. I say there is nothing ordinary about any murder, and there is never an excuse for it, regardless of where it happens or who the victim is. The county sheriff has a moral and legal responsibility to protect the health and safety of the people that they choose to incarcerate in his jails. Instead, a very cavalier Sheriff Joe Arpaio tries to justify inhumane and unsafe jail conditions. This has to stop. Regarding the attack ads, we are now learning from news reports just how deeply involved the sheriff is involved in the so-called independent campaign committee. We also have produced eyewitness accounts of his openness of relating to the public that something big was coming and that they needed to stand by and wait to hear what they had to say about his opponent, which was me, including Joe Richard, who came forward and acknowledged that in June of this year, Dave Hendershot, Joe Arpaio's #2 man, personally took him aside and asked him to step away from our campaign and supporting us because the smear was on its way. In fact, news reports say that a captain in Joe Arpaio's personal security detail actually runs this committee. This shadowy organization appears to have been set up solely to fund attack ads and not leave a paper trail back to Joe Arpaio. Ladies and gentlemen, where there's smoke, there's fire, and this whole thing stinks. Not only is it wrong, earmarking funds is against the law. We hope the state very thoroughly looks carefully at the Democratic Party's lawsuit to uncover the truth behind this subterfuge. Joe Arpaio, in my opinion, is out of control. The public should be outraged by a sheriff who uses his powers to harass, to intimidate people, and now entire cities. The public should be outraged as it has a sheriff who hides jail violence and brushes off any murder. The public should be outraged by a sheriff who uses dirty tricks and lies to swift-boat his political opponents. Quite frankly, it's time for the voters to put an end to these cover-ups, to put an end to these lies, to put an end to this wasteful spending, to put an end to these sacred tactics, the scare tactics and intimidation, to put an end to the showboating, to put an end to the racial profiling as so profoundly described last week by former U.S. Attorney Paul Charlton, and put an end to endangering citizen and compromising public safety and other police agencies throughout this county. It's time for Joe Arpaio to go. Thank you. This whole group will be glad to take questions from any of you regarding any of the particular topics or the particular areas of concern with this pattern.
Yesterday, I was at the news conference held by Sheriff Joe and describing the entire raid. I said, is it a political strategy? Is this to create a diversion, exactly as you said, to Cotton's death? And Andrew Thomas assured me that it wasn't, that it had been planned for some time. It just happened to be a coincidence that it happened after the CBS stories aired. I mean, what do you say to that?
May I ask, apparently you asked the sheriff that question,
Right.
but Mr. Thomas answered.
Right.
What did the sheriff say?
He said no. He was like, I don't remember, you were there.
Yeah, he said something like, I don't have to rely on raids like this to get votes. I get votes on pink underwear and blah, blah, blah.
That's exactly what he said, yes. And then Thomas stepped in and said, no, this was planned. Sandra, I can assure you that this has been planned for a long time. It just happened to be after the story aired.
What I would challenge that response, I would challenge it by going back and looking at examples of other issues when they have coordinated sweeps involving either business raids or sweeps in the community. In fact, I know for a fact the last 3 fundraisers that I've had personally were done on the very same day. In those mornings of 3 fundraisers that we've had, there was a sweep that was made. The one in Sun City, we had a fundraiser and an event that afternoon. There was one in Phoenix, we had an event on South Central and the freeway. And then the one in Chandler, the Candle Factory one, we actually had a fundraiser in Chandler that day. Those are documented on my website. They're open to the public, very well laid out and available. So the information was available because we hide nothing. This campaign is about professionalism. Every one of my appearances are open to the public. He refuses to debate because he's a coward and won't answer the tough questions. We've been made available to the press, to the voters, anybody that wants to question. So I would question that strategy, that it was just a random act, that their investigation related down to an end, and that's when they hit. I don't agree. I don't.